morning, everyone. This is Irtez Ali, your Guadalupe reporter, and we will be talking about Luke's Gospel. And guess what? We have a special guest for that, our deacon, Miss Katrina Aguilar, and she will be answering all our questions about Luke's Gospel. So, Miss Aguilar, good morning. How are you doing?
I'm good.
That's great. So, we will be asking the first question. So, what does social justice mean to you?
Well, social justice means to me the justice in distributing privileges and opportunities to people in society.
So I asked that because social justice is portrayed in this gospel. So we will get back to that later.
Yes,
So
okay.
who wrote Luke's gospel?
Luke's gospel was written anonymously, but the name Luke was given to it. As that,
So they found the book named
Yeah.
Luke, basically.
Yes.
So when it was written,
Well, Luke's gospel was written in 75 to 85 CE, also with Matthew as well.
so could you tell us the difference between Mark and Luke and Matthew? Because we know that synoptic gospel they are considered as synoptic gospels, but however they are different, especially Luke's one. So could you tell us, elaborate us on that, please?
Okay, so Luke's gospel was about the concern for poor people, and it was about the involvement of women in Jesus' ministries, while Mark's gospel was about the Jewish people converting before Jesus returned. Then Matthew's gospel was about the continuity of the Old Testament, and it was for Christians and possible converters that they should know that Christianity wasn't a superstition, but it was something that was going to continue on. Yes.
Oh, so these are the differences?
Yes, those are the differences.
Okay. So then that means it shows that the audience is also very different.
Yes.
So who are the audiences?
Well, the audience for Luke's gospel were the Gentiles.
Oh, so it wasn't marketing. It wasn't for Jewish people.
No.
Final question is, so getting back to social justice,
Yes.
when I asked about what does social justice mean to you? So there's a reason why I asked it, because social justice is portrayed in Luke's gospel.
Yes, it is.
So how is it portrayed? How is it shown in Luke's
Well,
gospel?
from my perspective, it was the privileges, like it was for the involvement of women, it was a privilege for them because back in those days, women weren't supposed to be involved with anything that was claimed as a man stuff. So yeah, it was a privilege for them to be involved in Jesus' ministry. So that was my view of how social justice was in Luke's gospel.
Oh, I see. Alright, folks, so that's it. So we basically have the basic information about it, but we will continue with more in depth. So thank you so much again, Miss Aguilar.
Thank you.
I hope you have a great day. See you later. Good day, Mr. Rashid. Oh, yes, nice to meet you. Could you tell us about the themes that are portrayed in Luke's Gospel? Because we are interviewing about the Luke's Gospel in general. So we would appreciate it if you would elaborate on that. Yes, of course. So Luke's Gospel has four major themes that I believe to Luke's Gospels have, or especially in the parables. So the first theme that I found was the wealth and possession. So this was portrayed so gravely on the Gospel because it relates to concern for the poor and the marginalized. It forms the other side of the coin, basically. So in the Gospel, it repeatedly portrayed as a warning for people who are using the wealth and possession, who are abusing it, basically. Well, and instead of not sharing it, they're keeping it to themselves. So that's basically showing that like you're being greedy and you're not being sharing. So that's something that's very bad, you know. It's showing as like a degree, warning people against the danger of trusting material stuffs like the wealth and not on your soul. So there are parables that mentions about the wealth and possession, and also Luke's gospel reflects the total renunciation of goods as the cost of discipleship, wealth, and on the other hand, he also encourages the good stewardship of wealth. The latter theme is identified as a pastoral concern on the part of Luke in a mixed community consisting of both rich and poor. Another theme that I have is the poor and the marginalized. That is highlighted also in most parables in Luke's gospel. This reflects how, like, in overall, Jesus in his ministry and teaching, including the parables, reflects the heart of God in his concern for the trodden in the society. So basically saying that, like, in Luke's gospel, it shows that poor people and the marginalized are seen below, and that shouldn't be the case because God created everybody equal, and so there should be an equity among the community, among the people, because God sees everyone through equal eyes, you know. Then another theme that we found was woman. So woman was portrayed greatly in Jesus' ministry because they participated in Jesus' ministry. Jesus' preaching, basically, preaching life. And interestingly, only Luke mentioned about woman, like Mary Magdalene, his mother Mary, etc. But in Matthew and Mark, it never really mentioned about women participating in Jesus' ministry. So that's something significant in the whole Christianity history, because it shows that in the gospel, the woman has some type of privilege in the society, showing that, like, there is social justice seen greatly in Luke's gospel. Finally, the other theme that is seen is the conflict and reflection. It is well known in Luke's narratives that is characterized by examples of conflict and rejection. The theme is interrelated with the other two, which was the wealth and possession of poor and marginalized. However, the conflict arises due to Jesus' concern for the poor and marginalized and his teaching on wealth and possession. So this is apparent in almost every Luke's parables, and it relates to a number of issues. The most important one is understanding who belongs to the true Israel, and whether Israel has been rejected as a result of its continued rejection of God's Messiah. Basically saying that, like, when Jesus was revealed indirectly as the Messiah, the Jewish people ignored that and they went against Jesus, basically going against God. So that is something significant in Luke's gospel, because in Matthew and Mark this isn't mentioned directly. So the parables do not warrant the view that these parables imply an overall rejection of Israel. Instead of serving a condemnatory function, the parables primarily serve an instructive function, resulting in two models of discipleship. In a negative sense, the antagonists embody character traits that Luke wants his readers to avoid. So basically saying that that Jesus wanted everybody to follow the right way of living life, not being very selfish to yourself. So you have to keep in mind that Jesus wanted everybody to see each other equally, not as in that person is higher and that person is lower. No, he didn't want that. So he wanted everyone to have an equal opportunity, privilege, and as well as the chances to see each other in an equal way and to respect each other, as well as to treat each other in an equal eye. So yeah, that's all about it. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Alvarez. And we will be coming back again to the Guadalupe channel, so stay tuned. And now we're back to our Guadalupe channel from the short commercial. So we were still talking about Luke's gospel, and we were just going into depth. It was getting very exciting. So now we will be talking about the parables of Luke's gospel. Now we have a special guest who is a priest of Holy Redeemer Primary School and has 2 PhD in theology. So please let us give a warm welcome to our Father Russell Bumper. Father, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, Father. Alright, please have a seat. Please have a seat. Okay, so earlier, Mr. Rashid Alvarez was giving talk about the themes of the Luke's Gospel. So he also mentioned about the parables that are involved in the themes. So could you tell us about the parables that were involved in the themes?
There are many parables, but I have chosen 4 specifically. The parable of the rich fool is the first one. So in this parable, greed seems to be a major concern. Due to the farmer having a surplus of grains and goods, he decides to extend his barn, not knowing his soul was required that same day. Jesus' response was, "So he who lays up treasure for himself is not rich towards God." Therefore, the lesson in this parable follows wealth and possession. We devote our lives gathering wealth rather than devoting our time towards God. Sadly, money seems to be our master instead of God. Secondly, we are blessed by God not to be hoarders of our wealth, but to be rather a blessing to others. A second parable is the rich man and Lazarus. In the parable, the rich man lived in luxury every day. At the gate laid a poor man named Lazarus. Lazarus suffered many injuries, wounds, and he suffered hunger and malnutrition. He longed to eat whatever fell from the rich man's table. In time, both Lazarus and the rich man died. However, the angels, they carried Lazarus to Abraham in heaven, and the rich man was tormented in hell. In the beginning, the rich man begged for help and sympathy from Abraham. He requested that Lazarus would return to earth and warn his family. However, warn his family about this horrific place called hell. However, his request was rejected by both Lazarus and Abraham. Therefore, the parable falls into the theme of poor and marginalized. We see how the rich man enjoys and accounts for no one rather than himself. Knowing Lazarus, the poor man who laid outside his gate, he still decided to place a blind eye towards Lazarus. Now he is experiencing agonizing pain in hell, and he comes to a realization that materialistic items do not matter to God. It is how we decide to share our materials and help others that is important. Also, another lesson is that the poor and marginalized will be blessed in the afterlife. Okay. Another parable was the barren fig tree. It started with a man who had a fig tree who was in his vineyard. He went in search for fruits, but to his disappointment there was none. Due to this, he said to the dresser of the vineyard to cut it down. However, the vineyard requested for him to give it 1 more year. Take in mind, this fig tree had been there for 3 years, and no fruit had been there. In this parable, the fig tree represents Israel, and the vineyard represents Jesus. In other words, it represents Jesus giving us, his people, a chance of repentance and forgiveness. This is also seen between John the Baptist and Jesus, who have been preaching the message to repent through Israel for 3 years, similar to the 3 years that the fig tree was planted. But the Jews were offended by the need to repent. Thus, they rejected their Messiah. The lesson in this parable is to repent while we have the opportunity for our God. A God that is very merciful, but as everyone else, we all have our limits. So why risk something so big for something so little?
But these are the parables that are mentioned in the themes.
There are many parables. However, these were 3 that I chose to represent these themes.
So, one last question is,
how social justice could could be just portrayed in each of the parables? Like in summary, it's not like all the parables, just in summary, how is it portrayed?
Okay, so in Luke's Gospel, Jesus is portrayed as a model of social justice. With the use of the parable, Jesus explained to his audience the injustice that occurs in his time on earth. Today, most of this injustice still occurs. Right? That women are still perceived as lower than men. Some like in jobs and in different career options that they want to choose. With the use of parable, he also encourages social justice to be prevented by explaining the right and wrong that occurs in each story that he tells his audience.
Oh, so you mean social injustice, prevent justice?
Yeah, to prevent social injustice.
I hope you're having a good day. We'll see you again later. And this ends our program for tonight. So I'm your reporter, Irtiz Alif, and this is coming from Guadalupe Channel. Peace out.
I don't worry about them pagans. Me dance to them true.